Hey y'all, welcome back to another ASOTU Edge webinar. I'm excited about this one today. We're going to be talking about EV Power for Life and how dealers can promote sustainability by leveraging renewable energy. So we're going to be joined today, of course, by Paul and Kyle. We also have our dear friend, Robert Blessing, who is the president of Renew Energy. So enjoy. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, here we are, our next webinar. I love these because they're so cool, they're fast, and we always are done before we know it, but we learn a lot in the process. What else could you ask for?
Yeah, and honestly, we haven't talked about EVs a lot on the webinars, which is shocking because we talk about EVs a lot everywhere. And I think
that's a good point.
You know, just coming off the fact that you've bought an EV, I think I'll just see myself out of this conversation because I feel like you've got enough to talk about.
That's the big joke these days, right? It's like, how do you know someone does CrossFit? How do you know someone's vegan? Because they tell you within the first 2 minutes of your conversation. How do you know someone just bought their first EV? I'm about to tell you all about it.
Well, I'll tell you how they know is 5 days before they buy their EV, they slap a big charging connector on their living room table and take a video of it and get a whole bunch of comments about what they may or may not be buying.
What do you think I'm getting?
You may or may not have done that a couple of weeks ago. It's a totally different move when you're buying an EV. I mean, just your purchase process alone, you're like buying accessories off of Amazon prior to having the car
to the EV
in your driveway.
purchase.
Right.
I know it's a big mind shift, and I think a lot of people who have to get over this hurdle if they're even considering an EV, because there just is, and I thought I knew a lot about it. I had to learn so much, and you and I talk about this at least 3 to 4 times a week. We talk about EV related topics, and I still had a lot to learn because there are complexities around charging, where you can charge, how you can charge, how long it takes to charge, how many miles you can go before your charge. And the big one that I'm learning right now, like literally in real time over the last few days, and I'm actually looking to ask today's guest a few more questions, is how much does it actually cost to charge? Because we've been seeing some data lately that in certain places like California, it's actually more expensive to fill your car with electricity than it is with gasoline.
Yeah. This whole question of like, does that contribute to a lower cost of ownership or not? And you know, is it just, I'm earth friendly, or is there a lower cost of ownership on these vehicles for consumers that they can kind of balance, you know, what's going on with the actual prices of these EVs right now? So, hey, let's get into it because, you know, we talk about EVs all the time, but we're not the experts, and we've got Robert here today. So let's bring Robert in. The real expert, the guy that's going to tell us all about all the dollars and cents. Robert, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thanks for being here. I love that the high back chair vibes, by the way. I feel like we are in session and that we have Kyle and I have 60 minutes to work out all of our problems with you. And so good. He's like, tell me, how does that make you feel? How does your EV make you feel? Right. I feel like that's going to be the next question. Robert, give us a little overview of what it is that Renew Energy does. And then obviously you're going to have some questions for me, I hear, about my EV. And like, we're going to talk about what people can actually do if they're considering and lower their costs and lower cost of ownership and all the good things.
Sure. So what Renew Energy is about is the love for EVs. I have 3 EVs myself. A PF, thanks to Michael Wood over at Checker Flag. We absolutely love the idea, love the speed of the vehicle, the way the car handles. I mean, EVs are just so exciting. I can't imagine owning anything but an EV. So Renew Energy, I've been in the solar business for 12 years, started with the Vivint organization, went to Tesla, and ultimately we found our niche when I got my first electric car, which happened to have been a Tesla at the time. The problem with having an EV, as you know, if you don't do the model that we have, is there's time spent at the mall. There's time spent somewhere other than where you need to be, and the productivity is down because of that, unless you got a Starbucks next to your charging station. But more
you got all the productivity.
Oh my gosh. But more importantly, as the EV sector started growing, the cost per kilowatt hour just started going through the roof. I mean, when I started in 2016, And where we are today, that cost is just, in some cases, doubled, tripled.
Whoa.
And it doesn't make sense for some consumers to make that leap. What Renew Energy did was we made it a common sense approach. It's like, hey, we need to price the energy production at a place where it makes sense financially for a customer to have.
The question on everyone's head is, what does it actually take to buy and own an EV, right? But there's still so many questions around, and it's not just the charging, but it's the tires, and it's the, I don't have these fluids, but I have these fluids, and I get recalls over there's just so many questions around the ownership process. I actually remember, so Robert, here's my only claim to EV.
Kyle's an OG. He's an OG.
I'm a super early, I think it was 2011 Nissan Leaf owner. And back then, I don't think, so we had ChargePoint back then, which was a very early charging network. And I don't think we ever spent more than $30 a month on
as
charging.
A dealership.
No, as a person, as us,
you own
right?
that.
Now we had a level 2 charger in our home, but my wife going around to Kohl's and going to Starbucks and charging at, there's a Bicentennial Mall downtown that she charged at. And we never had more than $30 in total charging needs back then. So it is definitely changed since then from what's being charged for someone to hook up to one of these public chargers.
It's a shocking number. I drove up to NATA and had to charge at NATA. It was $40. I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Well, that's very similar to what I saw. Yeah.
At home. I'm like, look at this. So, Paul, tell me a little bit about the story, because I know you got the really cool Ford F-150 Lightning. Very cool car, by the way, or truck.
Yes. So I tried to figure out what would be a good fit for me, and so I've always wanted a pickup too. And so as I was kind of going through the consideration, I wanted to be able to fit my family. I wanted to have enough space. I wanted to be able to tow a little bit. So there are a number of EVs that would have fit that. And the F-150 Lightning, from a value standpoint, I realized that these trucks that were, I got a used one. These trucks that were $100,000 2 years ago, you can get between $40,000 and $50,000. And so I got one with 23,000 miles on it for $45,000. It's gorgeous. It has it's the platinum, so it's got the extended range battery. So they say about 300 miles of range on that. And so that's what I have.
Which is perfect. So as you were coming from, I understand it was North Carolina?
Charlotte, yes, to Syracuse.
Charlotte, okay. So from Charlotte to New York, where you live, what did you pay when you went to a charging station?
So this is first part of the learning curve, because I had no idea what electric would cost. And I just, the adopted mindset is that it's way cheaper than gas, right? It's way cheaper. And so on our first charging stop, which was, I don't know, it was probably about 240 miles after Charlotte, and which is about as far as I got on that first. It said 300, but the speed limit was 70 on a lot of those highways. So I was doing 75, 78. And apparently I learned that the charge depletes at a faster rate when you're going over 70 by a good bit. The gap between miles remaining and how far I had to go kept closing. At first I was I got 50 more miles that I need to go. And then halfway through the trip, I was I got 26 more miles that, and I was getting real nervous. And so I get to this charging station. I thought it was a fast charger, as in 150.
Wait, real quick. That's an interesting thing, because especially when people are considering I bop around the city or I'm on the highway, it's normally the opposite, right?
Yes.
The higher,
right.
If you're going 50 to 70 miles an hour, you're getting better highway miles a gallon compared to a city miles a gallon. So that's the first flip that people have to get in their mind.
It's so true. That's so true. And so, the F-150 Lightning will charge at 150 kilowatts maximum intake. And so I found a fast charger, but then I was sad to see when I plugged it in and started charging, it was only charging 42 kilowatts per hour. So I was oh, this is going to take a lot longer than I thought. And I didn't even look at the price. I just scanned my credit card. I went and we had lunch with one of my son's friends, and I came back and I pulled the charger out and I looked at it and it was $43. And I was I was so concerned about getting home that I wasn't like paying attention that much. But I remember that was the first time it like registered in my mind, like that's not nearly, because wasn't able to even like to charge it to max. You know, I only charge it by like 2/3. And that was the first time I was like, that doesn't feel a lot cheaper.
I mean, what is a normal one? A gas powered one?
It will take. Yeah, I mean, I think there's like a 24-gallon tank and a 36-gallon tank. So the 24-gallon tank would probably be the equivalent, and around
$75.
Around here, 75 to 100, depending on who's president, I guess.
Yes. So, I mean, that's one of the downsides of the charging stations at the mall. Mm-hmm. The charging stations at the dealership, whether you're using ChargePoint from the very beginning, Electrify America, Blink. They're all at that 22, that much higher per kilowatt hour rate. And so the change has to be, we got to get that number down. And how do we get that number down? The answer is solar. Solar is in a unique space because the current administration just eliminated for all those charging stations across the United States. They eliminated the federal funding and the incentives to get those charging stations put in. Wow. So what's happening is, unfortunately for those companies, they got to take that loss and add it to the cost per kilowatt in order to offset the change in the cost there. Mm-hmm. So with solar and getting a charging, type level 2 charging station at the house and having solar be part of the equation, as we're going to see with your particular home, we're going to get that price down to, whether it's a cash purchase, it's going to be 9.5 cents. And if you use our financing, it's going to be 11 cents a kilowatt. So you're way lower than what anybody could
I think the kilowatt rate was somewhere between like 30 and 45 cents as I traveled. So obviously it's like triple plus on what you just said. Yeah.
So our model is very simple. It's like, have the dealership look at the, hey, here's your nice new truck. Separate entity. I want to make sure that everybody stands for the dealers that are going to see this. It's a separate transaction. It's not part of your dealer deck, that you're worrying about any kind of Reg Z situation or California laws or whatever state laws you have for dealerships without third parties, vendors involved. It's simply a fancy referral. Mm-hmm. Dealership says, hey, congratulations on your new vehicle. Yes, we can provide charging over at the dealership here, or, Electrify America can provide you, or whatever charging facility they have locally. But we have this option. This company will install your level 2 charger at the house within 3 days of the purchase of your vehicle. And at the same time, we can see if it makes financial sense to have the vehicle be powered by solar.
Yeah.
All we're doing is a quick evaluation of, there's trees in the yard, the way the house faces, to see if it makes financial sense. If it doesn't, stay with what the dealerships currently are providing for electric power. But under this formula, my house, I'm at 9 cents a kilowatt. So kilowatt hour. I mean, you can't.
So how does that work out? Because I remember putting a level 2 charger system, and I had to, have like, I had to get the power routed from the exterior box into the level 2 because it required the 220 and get that hooked up as opposed to doing like trickle charging stuff. But how does, like, what does that actually break down to? Because I think that there in my like me thinking, oh, solar, there's two big things that as a consumer I would be wondering is like, well, that seems like a lot of cost to like not get the cost benefit right off the bat. So that's like the first thing. And then the other one that I'd want to look at is, when I've heard about solar planning projects, it's like, oh, we're going to do 3 site visits and then we got to, hit up the city and then we got to do, like this whole rigmarole that as a consumer, I'm like, I'm out on.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of runaround.
The practical runaround of this thing,
Yeah. For us here in Virginia, we have 2 offices. One is in Virginia, one's in San Diego. Our Virginia office, 3 business days, we'll have the EV charger and the solar installed on the home. So there's not a whole lot.
Wait, what?
Yeah. It's not a whole lot
Solar
of
too?
The solar too. So
Okay.
we're very fortunate. Our municipalities here in Virginia have, in many cases, it's an electrical permit. And so in many cases, it's an over-the-counter permit that we pick up and we go install our solar. And our teams, we have several teams, so our teams are out there and getting it done. This week alone, we have 15 installs that are going in, and it's from this turnaround time. So
is that pretty ubiquitous across the country, or does it vary a little bit depending on state?
California, depending on San Diego, over-the-counter permits, and it can be a very quick turnaround time. The Sacramento area, very quick permitting time. Unfortunately, in that Los Angeles area, you're dealing with jurisdictions that aren't as quick. So you're looking at a 30-day turnaround time on installation. But the EV, the charger itself, we can install in 3 days. It's the process for the solar that'll take
for how to get the solar powering that thing.
So I like from a dealership adoption standpoint, because I think that is a very important part of adoption, is that you have an advocate in the dealership who understands and can guide the consumer through the process of their buying a lot of times their first EV, giving them a solution for home charging right away, that they can already feel comfortable with the fact it's a little excitement in my mind, because you're excited you bought this car. You're gonna be really excited to have this new fancy plug at home that you can plug in your car. And so I think that component of it is a critical component to a good customer experience overall, because if you buy an EV and then have a bad experience getting the charger installed and figuring out what it's going to cost, right, that sours the whole thing. So do you all actually have point of sale communication with the customer, or that the dealership communicates with the customer and connects them with you? And then after that is after, once you take the baton, is when you start talking about solar? Is that how that works?
Sure. So it can be that way. So give you again the example with Mike Wood over at Checker Flag. Mm-hmm. He just sold a customer a PHEV Range Rover a couple weeks ago. And in the introduction email, it was solar and the charging station. It depends on the situation. We want to make sure that, most importantly is that EV sale, obviously. Mm-hmm. And this is, kind of think of this as like the diamond ceramic coat of the car. This is the last part of the deal that we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. The deal's already done. We're sitting with that, the variable different options that you can get at the end there. This is one of those. Mm-hmm. And by simply having it, obviously we need a charging station. That's a no-brainer for the customer, and it's not that expensive. So, $385, as long as it's within 10 feet, that's how much we're going to charge to get it 10 feet from the main panel. And it's typically in the garage. Right. If they have the Mercedes, fancy, charging platform, or the BMWs or whatever companies, GM's unit, whatever, we'll put that on. Obviously, whatever that cost is, we're passing that on to the consumer.
Yep.
But we will do whatever one that we need to install. The solar part is more, it has more factors involved. Good sun hours, trees, good roof, all of those factors have to be addressed. And so the dealership couldn't possibly know what those factors are. And so that's our job to take care of it. But if it is a good candidate, it's going to make financial sense. Our company makes sure that we're below the current rate of the utility. Here in Virginia, the rate right now is almost 15 cents a kilowatt. They're about to have a rate increase in July. We're simply at that 9 or 11 cents. Our sales team there's a governor on what they can charge to make sure that it makes financial sense for the consumer. So no matter who we compete against, it's going to be much cheaper. We use special types of financing, so they're not huge bank fees that are built into the back end that people don't know about. We don't use those companies because we want to make sure that this is accelerating EV sales. Mm-hmm. And so, if we're going to present to you, here's your 25 cent, per kilowatt hour charging, that's not exciting.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah, no. Great. Thanks.
All right. I got a question, because I know that we did a little pre-work Because
Yep.
I'm like the dollars and cents guy. I got to see it on paper. I heard that you and me get to try and sell Paul one of these right now. That's what we're doing right now. We're selling Paul.
Oh, I feel like it's a gotcha moment.
System. Got him. Let's walk through it, because we gave you an address. We gave you.
I recognize that place.
Oh my goodness, Paul.
Let me just say, I don't
you
know
did not
how
set up those chairs. That was definitely Sarah.
This is my house, and that is my back deck. I have no idea how Google timed the satellite shot so that the 4 chairs would be like nicely located in front of that fire pit. I mean,
It's like it was planned.
That's quite remarkable, actually. I have 4 dogs. I have 4 kids. That deck never looks that great. All right, good. You already got. That's great. You already got one in the bag. I'm getting closer to a yes already.
So in this particular setup, just so you know, for everybody on the channel, he lives in New York, and it's as far north as we can, go in this country.
Yeah, about 30 miles further north, I'm in Lake Ontario, and if I keep swimming, I'm in Michael Cirillo's homeland.
There you go. So, not the most ideal sun hours in the United States. However,
so nice of you to say that. Yeah,
you're so well timed. You got these like not so easy to work with, cities. And
if it was in the middle of February when we don't see the sun at all, I probably would just hang up from this call and go cry somewhere. But go ahead, the sun's out today. I'm feeling good. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So you said that you drive approximately 1,000 miles a month, right?
Yep.
So we designed this system to accommodate for 1,000 miles a month. The size of this system is 3.28 kilowatts. So with our company, when we go to a home, we do 2 designs. And the reason for that is, one, this is what your utility expense is going to be for the vehicle. And then we do a whole house. So we would have another design. In your case, I didn't do that just for the show.
But
fine. We would have 2 options available to the consumer so that they can take advantage of it for the whole home, so that they no longer have a supplemental bill from the utility company. So with this system, you're getting all of your miles. I was aggressive on the lack of sun hours, so let's put it that way. So the system is designed to make sure that we get all of your power needs. So that's the system. If you can go to the next page. So your electric bill for your new EV driving 1,000 miles a month would be $54.64 if you didn't live in New York. But because you live in New York, it's actually going to be cheaper. The state of New York has some incredible incentives for solar.
I was going to say that might be the first time I've ever heard that. Because you live in New York, it's going to be cheaper. I never, ever hear that.
It's because it's the right subject matter. So your actual electric bill is going to be $36 a month.
Whoa.
So
what?
Yep. So your new gasoline, whatever you want to call it, bill for your vehicle to go 1,000 miles a month is $36 a month.
That is pretty cheap.
So if you,
and that's the increase over his current
exactly.
bill, basically. $36 more a month.
No more gasoline bill. He's got a $36 electric bill just for his
as long
vehicle.
as you don't go out of Syracuse, you're $36 to the positive. That's it.
I mean, that truck, I'm never taking a long trip in that truck again.
Right. Yeah. You're not doing it. So you're all set. That's wild. So how does that balance against like the cost of the system? Because obviously there's the cost of the system, or is that included? That's the cost of the system and the electricity.
There's zero money that comes out of Paul's pocket. His next utility bill will be $36 a month for the vehicle.
Wait, hold on just a second.
No. He's saying it doesn't cost anything to get
out of your pocket. So with our funding company, we're going to take advantage of the federal tax credit that you have. And that's what makes this so cool is, yes, the charging stations across the country lost their incentives from the federal government, but until 2030, there's a 30% federal tax incentive to do solar on your home. President Trump actually extended it. President Biden extended it again. So we have this for another 6 years that we're going to, 5 years, apologize, forgot what year I'm in. We have this for another 5 years that we know of, where 30% of the system cost is going to be covered. And again, in your particular case, state of New York has a $5,000 incentive for solar. We applied that incentive on yours. Your case, you got about $2,500 for that, which got you down to that 11-cent charging rate for your electricity.
So that's the solar thing and the actual cost of the electricity.
That's all covered in that $36. Is
covered in the $36.
Yep.
It's pretty great.
Paul, I feel like you're getting some solar panels.
Okay. Now let's.
The mathing is not mathing for me. Is
Kyle's
this
like,
like one of those?
Kyle's like, do my house, do my house.
do me. Right.
Let's go to the graph that I show for the dealers, because this obviously is what the dealers want to know about. So at the top, you'll see that we have the size of the system, and I have two versions here. Paul, that would be just to take care of your vehicle, and the one next to it, I did an approximation. We didn't really plug it in, but for cost per watt, so we're at $3 flat. That's our number. So none of our salespeople can go over that number. And because of the financing that we use, we don't go above that number, where our competitors might be at $4, $5 a watt. Like I said, it's at $3 a watt. Your total system cost $98.40. That's before the federal incentive, and that's before the state incentive. It actually is less than 50% of that number right there. Mm-hmm. On the right side, 36,000. Again, in your particular case, there would be a significant haircut of about 40% with the state of New York because of the incentives that are available to you. But here's where it's cool for the dealers that simply picked up the phone or sent an email. And I got some really cool things that we're working on right now with CDK and the other DMSs out there. The dealer, for just referring us over, if you went with just that EV installation, they would have made $820 just for referring us.
Wow.
You install
just for the referral.
Let me, Robert, I'm going to trip here with you real quick. I got to make sure for all the people, because we're almost running out of time. This is the way I hear this process going, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because the math isn't mathing, and if it's the way that it's mathing to me right now, then this is like, this
no-brainer.
This is a no-brainer.
Should be a no-brainer.
Dealership sells EV, refers you. The customer gets a little bit of EV study. They give you their address. You do a little overhead. You're like, yeah, this is going to work out in your favor. You say, hey, Mr. Customer, don't send me any dollars. Just sign this piece of paper. In just a few days at the end of your first 30-day cycle, we're going to send you a bill for, in Paul's case, $36, and we're going to ship the dealership $820. And Bob's your uncle?
Yep.
My goodness.
Kind of cool, huh? So
that's really cool.
If Paul would have put solar for the whole house on, the dealership gets $3,000.
Right. So they get the commission on whatever you close as a result of that introduction.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, with the state of Virginia and hopefully some others coming up in the near future, I can't talk about quite yet, but the state dealership association would get $164 on Paul's EV only, and $600 on the whole house. If
the state association gets it?
Yeah, we're promoting EV sales. We're trying to make sure that this process accelerates. And by having us have the right price, again, it's all about price. It's about making it make sense. Right. Everybody does things if it's financially sound. This is financially sound for the consumer. It's, obviously a great thing for the dealership and the association. So what's going to happen is there's going to become a buzz. Everybody's happy. Everybody's earning a living and promoting EV. When a dealership all of a sudden gets a $3,000 incentive for selling that EV, and we all know the margins on EV are tight. They're super tight. And so this just opens up a whole nother opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you just had me start thinking about an EV. I don't know why. I'm just like, I might as well think about it now that this is a possibility.
Absolutely. Get rid of that gas bill.
And imagine it from this perspective. You're worried about charging right now. You charge it at work or wherever. I come in at night, plug it in, wake up in the morning. I got 300 miles.
Right.
Every day.
Every day.
And then if you don't charge it, that power's still feeding back to your house, right? Like if you decide
exactly.
Right. Like say you don't have an EV anymore or whatever, like that every kilowatt hour that solar is producing is still at a, 1/2 to 1/3 cost of what you're paying your electric supplier.
Typically, yeah. In California, their daytime charging rate right now is 47 cents a kilowatt.
What's the life expectancy, usable life of a system?
We have, so within Virginia and some of the other states, we have we're backed by Zurich Insurance. And so there's a 30-year warranty on all of the equipment, 30-year warranty on our installation itself.
There you go. So when your mortgage is nice and paid off, even if you just bought your house, basically, you're good.
And it's Zurich Insurance. Let's face it. It's one of the top 10 insurance companies.
Yeah,
in the world.
I think they got a couple of bucks to fulfill their claims if they have.
Well, Robert, we got way more excited than I think we've gotten on a webinar in just a hot minute. I feel like you brought some really cool information, and the fact that there's like this general cross promotion desire to like get at the consumer, the dealer, the state association, what you guys are doing, and wrap all of that into one is just like super encouraging and exciting. I'm pumped about what you're doing. I think that it's a really like savvy way to serve the EV landscape. And thanks for joining us today on the webinar.
Appreciate the time, guys. Have fun with that F-150.
Sure will.
All right, everyone, that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you or someone that you know missed it, you might want to catch it again. You can go to our website, click on media, drop down to webinars, and you can check them all out there. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.